Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is October 3rd, Thursday, 2024. And boy, oh boy, is the government in deep crap, up to their necks. Greg Fergus and party leaders have said, all right, we got to get to the bottom of this here. We're shutting down government because there is just a tremendous amount of scams. There's a lot of corruption. We have foreign interference as a penetrated Z cabinet. There's just a whole lot of things going on. While government is shut down, which means no motions are being passed, committee did occur earlier this morning, and question period is still in session. Just means that nothing is really getting done. They're showing up, they're talking, but nothing is actually going to be happening because they got to figure out what the hell is going on. So this is going to be an absolutely insane live stream with question period because there's a tremendous amount of tension between what happened last night to now. Like it's just no one. I mean, we know what we know, but we don't know a whole lot. You haven't had an official press release from Justin Trudeau, from any party leader. The only person that really broke the news was Andrew Scheer, and that's it. So it's kind of crazy. What the hell is going on here? Very, very crazy. But nonetheless, this is going to be insane, and we are ready for it. So buckle in, get your likes in right now before we start. Make sure you're subscribed. Chances are if you're this early, you're already subscribed and you have post notifications on. But nonetheless, just check to see if those things are true. And, buckle up. Get yourself a coffee. I got my coffee right here. My wife just filled my coffee mug. I am good to go. And I do have a special announcement for everybody. But, I mean, a little bit more leaning towards channel members. So I posted on the community tab of this channel and MSB last night with a code for 15% off for all channel members. Unless you're a channel member, you're not going to be able to see it. Now, this is because I've released sticker packs. All right, I've got stickers before. The people love them, so I grouped a bunch in yesterday again. So this sticker pack is back up. All right, a very affordable price. They're cheaper because they're in bulk. Now this one is, you can use the code that I linked for channel members for 15% off. You get all 5 of these stickers. But the one I just released right now, I did post it at the pinned comment of this live stream. I haven't shown it yet. Are you ready, folks? Are you ready? This is the first time. This is the first time anyone sees it. Here we go. This is what it looks like. You got Freeland on a broom, right? We've seen that one before. You've got Stop the WEF. We've seen that one before. But here's the new ones that just came out. Only Scams, the Liberal Party. Only Scams. That's my favorite one. I got to say, that's my absolute favorite one. Then you got Trudeau Must Go, an awesome bumper sticker that can be put on gas stations. That can be put on the walls, or the bathroom stalls in a bar. That can be put on anywhere, right? And I'm not suggesting you go around plastering these everywhere, but the idea behind these sticker packs is, you remember back in the day how how people would have basically a square one like this that said Harper, right? They'd have a square one like this that said Harper, and they'd put it on stop signs so it said Stop Harper. Well, that's kind of the point of these, right? And then keep calm and never vote Liberal. So this pack right here is a brand new one with a couple of stickers here that we've already seen. But again, the links for this is down in the description. It's in the pinned comment of this live stream. It's in the description of this live stream. It's on the website. Channel members get 15% off. You just have to go to the... People are laughing, eh? Pretty good, eh? Yeah. Only Scams by the Liberal. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Cha-cha-cha sticker. Yeah, we'll see about that. Maybe Trudeau wears a Mexican outfit. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what we got up our sleeves, right? Even though I'm not wearing sleeves, I got a T-shirt on. We'll see what we can come up with. But nonetheless, yeah, 15% off for channel members. You just got to go to the community tab of House of Canada or MSB if you're a channel member on either or, and find that code. All right, there's a code there. It gets 15% off, but nonetheless, it's available for everybody. So go get them right now so before they sell out. Without further ado, we're going to be getting into this here in a moment. They are in the house. The house is open, and it's going to be a wild day. So we got almost 1,000. Didn't I just start going live? How long have I been? I've been live for 5 minutes. We got 1,000 people in here. What the hell's going on? Got 1,000 people in here. All right. Let's get some likes in, right? Let's see if we can get up to 400 or 500 likes. Let's see if we can get few thousand people in here before question period starts. They're doing routine proceedings right now. And then what the heck is a Mexican outfit? I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? Cha-cha-cha. You know what I'm saying? Cha-cha-cha. All right, here we go. Elizabeth May is speaking. This is going to be pretty good here. Let me just switch my screen. There we go, folks.
Provinces and First Nations to halt old-growth logging throughout these endangered ecosystems, to fund the protection in collaboration with Indigenous peoples, and particularly benefiting from the climate benefits of maintaining old growth, to support value-added initiatives for forests, and by particularly banning the export of raw logs, and to end the practice of using whole trees in wood pellet biofuel production. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I didn't even say nothing, and the chat's already saying she's drunk.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present a number of petitions to the House today.
Oh, my goodness.
Speaker, and this is the first one. Petitioners, of their own accord, have noted that, quote, after 9 years, it's clear that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption. They further note that this failed Prime Minister and his failed NDP Liberal government has increased the cost of everything and failed to take responsibility for their failures, and that crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are filling our streets due to the failed policies of this Prime Minister and his NDP Liberal government. Therefore, these petitioners call on the Government of Canada to axe the tax, build the homes, fix...
On a petition?
You cannot read the petition. The member is clearly reading the petition.
We definitely do have that rule, and I'm sorry I was distracted. But a brief summary of the petition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do understand that this is a sensitive matter for members of the government. So just to summarize, Madam Speaker, this petition is asking the House to axe the tax, build the homes, fix. That's what it says.
Okay. Yes, but that the honourable member has already
build the homes,
spoken
fix
about
the budget, and stop the crime. It further calls for an immediate non-confidence vote in this government and a carbon tax election. So I'll commend that petition to the consideration of the House, Madam Speaker. I assure that it was a nonpartisan association of citizens in my riding that put that petition together, Madam Speaker. The next petition is in support of an
bunch of weirdos.
C257 that I've put forward. Petitioners ask the House to recognize that political discrimination is a serious problem in this country, that our human rights legislation provides protection for people from various kinds of discrimination, but does not protect people from discrimination on the basis of political views or activity. And they note that Bill C257 would make that simple change to protect people from discrimination on the basis of their political views. Petitioners call on the House to support Bill C257 and further to defend the rights of Canadians to peacefully express their political opinions. The next petition that I am tabling in the House deals with policies of this government with respect to natural health products, changes that have been made by this government. Petitioners are opposed to those changes, and they're supportive of a private member's bill by my colleague from Red Deer that would seek to restore the freedoms that existed previously. Petitioners note that Liberals are threatening access to natural health products through new rules that would mean higher costs and fewer products available on store shelves. And they call on the Government of Canada to reverse the changes that were made in the last Liberal budget with respect to natural health products. Next, I'm tabling a petition in support of Bill S210, Protecting Young Persons from Exposure to Pornography Act. Petitioners note that sexually explicit material, including demeaning and violent sexual material, can be easily accessed on the internet by young persons. A significant portion of the sexually explicit material accessed online is made available for commercial purposes and is not protected by any effective age verification technology. Petitioners also note that online age verification technology is increasingly sophisticated and can now effectively ascertain the age of a user without in any way breaching their privacy rights, and that these recommendations have been made by stakeholders in a 2017 study to the Standing Committee on Health that are reflected in Bill S-210. Therefore, petitioners call upon the House to adopt Bill S-210 as quickly as possible. The next petition deals with proposals that we have seen for the legalization of euthanasia for children in Canada. Petitioners in particular note a proposal from Louis Roy of the Quebec College of Physicians and Surgeons, a recommendation to allow euthanasia for, quote, babies from birth to 1 year of age. Obviously, Madam Speaker, this would take place without the consent of the individuals being killed. Petitioners
what the hell is going on?
By and opposed to this proposal. They believe that the killing of children is always wrong and call on the Government of Canada to block any attempt to legalize euthanasia for minors. The next petition that I am tabling deals with the ongoing persecution of Falun Gong practitioners in China. They note that Falun Gong is a traditional Chinese spiritual discipline which consists of meditation exercises and moral teaching based on the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. The petition outlines the history of the persecution that has taken place against Falun Gong practitioners, as well as the work done by various
that's pretty messed up,
bringing attention to this issue, and how their leadership led to the passage of a private member's bill finally banning any Canadian complicity in forced organ harvesting and trafficking. Petitioners call for stronger measures from Parliament and from the government to respond to the horrific ongoing persecution of Falun Gong practitioners. They want to see this House pass a resolution to establish measures to stop the Chinese Communist regime's crimes of systemically murdering Falun Gong practitioners for their organs, and to publicly call for an end to the persecution of Falun Gong in China. The next petition responds to a proposal from the last Liberal platform to apply political criteria, ideological criteria, to the charitable status determination process. In particular, the Liberal platform in the last election proposed to deny charitable status to organizations that have convictions about abortion that the Liberal Party views as dishonest. Petitioners note that this proposal would jeopardize the charitable status of hospitals, houses of worship, schools, homeless shelters, and other charitable organizations who do work widely recognized to be good work, simply because of the personal convictions of the organization and those involved in it. Petitioners say that this would involve the creation of a values test associated with charitable status, similar to what we saw applied by this government to the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And petitioners believe that charities and other non-profit organizations should not be discriminated against on the basis of their political views or religious values, and should not be subject to a politicized values test, and that all Canadians have a right under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms to freedom of expression without discrimination. Petitioners therefore call on the House of Commons to protect and preserve the application of charitable status on a politically and ideologically neutral basis without a discrimination, and they further want to see the House affirm the right of Canadians to freedom of expression. The next petition that I'm tabling deals with the human rights situation in Eritrea, as well as political interference in Canadian affairs that petitioners say is the result of actions and decisions by the Eritrean government. This is a lengthy petition, but I'll summarize it, Madam Speaker. Petitioners note that Eritrea has been ruled by an authoritarian, brutal dictator under a totalitarian system for the last 30 years, without a constitution, no elections.
I guess this is where my petition will be read when it's finalized,
freedom of movement and association.
which I'm still working on, folks.
Indefinite
I
military conscription
called my local MP yesterday.
that about 30% of Eritrean
I'm trying to get this done.
has fled to escape from severe human rights violations. That those who do flee are still subject to potential violence and intimidation when they have left. Petitioners note as well that many human rights activists have started working to ensure that community events that are organized as proxies for the Eritrean embassy are recognized for what they are. They raise concern about Eritrean foreign interference, as well as the Eritrean dictator's overt alignment with Vladimir Putin and his assistance of the Russian government with their advancement of their strategic goals in Africa. Petitioners therefore call on the government of Canada to engage Eritrean political.
I'm not sure if it has to be the local one or
to take a leadership role among Western allies
or any MP.
Challenge the Eritrean dictator's malicious actions, including his collaboration with Vladimir Putin. They call for an investigation into Eritrea.
To be honest, though, they weren't much help. It's like asking the teacher to do your homework for you.
Asylum laws against those who are.
Please, madame, can you show me how to do this one more time?
Number of political prisoners whose names I've listed before.
Like, come on now. Come on now, Sunshine. You can figure this out. Please, madame. I wasn't paying attention.
Are done. Questions on the order paper? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I would ask that all questions be allowed to stand.
Great. Orders of the day.
Orders of the day, privilege, standing in the name of Mr. Scheer, alleged
Chris Fisher with the $5.
documents pertaining to Sustainable Development Technology Canada, resuming debate on the amendment of Mr. Berthold.
Debate, the Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
I'll get to it in a second here, Chris.
Continuing my debate from last night, before I was so rudely cut off by the Speaker last night, which I think was you, actually. I think I have about... Last night I was talking about, of course, the reason we're here today, which is the government's refusal
The Conservatives,
man, ordered by Parliament, by all three parties on this side of the House, regarding the green funding scandal. And, of course, people are asking which green funding scandal, because only the Liberal government could be so corrupt that they actually have subsets of their scandals. We have three ongoing right now. There's Environment Canada grants and contribution audit scandal right now, where they list off lack of government or governance issues, ineligible grants given, including to such companies as Rio Tinto, fine Canadian company, but they have been noted for a lot of environmental concerns, but they're also worth $220 billion US, and yet this government is giving them millions. Other companies, Cement Lafarge, received billions. Another one, Holcomb Group, which is worth $30 billion, has received millions from the government. And of course, there's the other scandal around the Green Accelerator Fund that the Auditor General had pointed out. One of the issues is they had that companies were receiving funding without actually showing what they were actually going to do to reduce greenhouse gases with that. Also, the Auditor General noted ineligible companies, no due diligence being done before $8 billion given out. Now, here's some of the companies that received some of that $8 billion. Algoma Steel, which is worth $2 billion. And these are the companies that were noted by the AG that did not have proper paperwork, did not possibly even be eligible for the funding, but still receive it from the Liberal government. So Algoma was worth $2 billion, received $200 million. ArcelorMittal, which is worth $329 billion, got $400 million. Foreign company got $400 million from the government. FCA Canada, Stellantis, on top of their billions they received for batteries, worth $55 billion, got $500 million more under the net accelerator. It goes on and on. These 8 companies, including Pratt & Whitney, which by the way is worth $250 billion, received $61 million. These 8 companies are worth over $1 trillion and receive probable ineligible funding from the government. Now there's a line that I want to point out here from the Net Accelerator report from the Auditor General. Now keep in mind again, the Auditor General pointed out this money was given out without proper due diligence, This money was given out without companies or even the government figuring out if they were going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for the billions given by Canadian taxpayers. Now the line is from page 8, for those wanting to follow along at home. A project above 50 million also requires Treasury Board approval, concurrence letters from ministers of other departments, and cabinet approval, but it can be fast-tracked with a letter to the Prime Minister. So we have 8 companies noted that received funding up to this $8 billion that were probably not eligible. The Auditor General herself stated due diligence was not done. Companies received money that were not eligible. Companies applied and received money despite showing no plan to reduce GHG emissions, but can be fast-tracked if it's above 50 million by the Prime Minister. Algoma Steel, which I noted, above 50 million. Stellantis above 50 million. Nexstar Energy, also Stellantis above 50 million. General Motors, which is worth 70 billion, also got money above the 50 million. So I have to ask, what was Cabinet's role? What was the Prime Minister's role? Was the Prime Minister involved in fast-tracking it? I'd have to ask that, and I would probably answer yes. Because it's clear from the government's own rules, these companies were not eligible. And yet somehow they got fast-tracked to receive the money through the Treasury Board, through Cabinet, and fast-tracked through the Prime Minister himself. 2 million Canadians lining up at food banks, veterans having to rely on the Veterans Food Bank Association of Edmonton, veterans having to go to a food bank, and yet $8 billion fast-tracked by Treasury Board, Cabinet, and probably the Prime Minister himself. Taxpayers' money going to large, profitable corporations worth $1 trillion without probably even being eligible. And then, of course, we have the Green Slush Fund.
Oh, here we go.
The General points out that Liberals turned Sustainable Development Technology Canada into a slush fund for Liberal insiders. $53 million given to 10 ineligible projects. Of course, this seems kind of small peanuts compared to the accelerator scandal. $250 million given out to 186 cases with projects which board members hold a conflict of interest. $58 million to projects without ensuring contribution agreements were met. Recurring issue with the government, the same issue with the contribution agreements from Environment Canada. So we have the House, the Conservatives, the Bloc, and the NDP all demanding that the documents related to the third Green Slush Fund, for those trying to keep track at home on their scorecards, it's a third one related to the Sustainable Development funding. Asked for the documents to be turned over to the RCMP. Parliament has the supreme privilege in this case. The government doesn't get to decide, bureaucrats do not get to decide what can be released when Parliament demands it. The government is covering up, the government is refusing to hand over the documents despite the will of the majority of this House. The government must learn that Parliament is supreme, not the Prime Minister's office, not the Prime Minister, not Liberal members of Parliament. Parliament is supreme. It's time for them to stop the cover-up and hand over the documents.
Hey, man.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well said.
House Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker, think of it in this sense. The Conservative Party on corruption, and this is just a short list, anti-terrorism, Phoenix scandal, G8 spending scandal, the E&TS scandal, the F-35 scandal, the Senate scandal, election scandals, plural. You might find this hard to believe, but not once did the Conservative Party ever go around collecting all the data and then shift it right from their offices over to the RCMP. Not once. Instead, they took the approach of burying it as far as you can underground. Madam Speaker, now we have a Conservative Party that believes they're better investigators than the RCMP. They're saying, let's gather the information and shift it over to the RCMP. Who cares about the Constitution and Charter rights? My question is, where was this enthusiasm when the Conservatives were in government to get to the bottom of the huge number? I just cited a few, Madam Speaker, of those scandals.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Here we have the most corrupt government probably in the history of Canada.
Wow.
It's their response to billions of dollars given to their friends. It's Harper's fault. Why did Harper do more about it?
They live in the past.
It's a response for this member who's been here long enough to know better. I'm going to quote from Michelle Bedard, who's the law clerk and parliamentary counsel, the House of Commons. There is no limit to the right of the House of Commons and of its committees to order the production of documents, providing that the documents are available in paper and electronic form and are in Canada. The power is subject only to exceptions and limits explicitly stipulated by Parliament. It's very clear. Parliament has asked for these documents. Parliament decides, not the member from Winnipeg North, not the PMO. Parliament decides. Parliament wants to get to the bottom of this scandal. The government needs to comply with the order of Parliament.
The honourable member for Terrebonne. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague, who I sit with on the Public Accounts Committee, for his speech. It's an important subject for me, and I think it's an important subject for him. The lack of transparency and the lack of accountability from this government to Crown corporations. When they put money in Crown corporations, they can do pretty much whatever they want.
All right.
In the case
that was pretty intense. That was pretty intense, folks.
Seeing here, the department put all responsibility and accountability.
Chris Fisher, the $5 super chat.
In this
MSB.
we're talking about
thanks for your enthusiasm. Nelson and Chris watching live from
a lot of that
Saskatchewan.
mismanaged.
Shout it out.
Colleagues' thoughts on that?
Fuck
I'd like to thank my colleague.
the weak soy boy liberal regime. Pierre for PM.
Comments and
Amen, Chris. Thanks for the 5.
Done a fine job searching for or fighting for transparency from this government. It's clear from all the witnesses we've heard, including a whistleblower, the Minister of Industry was aware, the government was aware, Liberal MPs were aware, and yet at every point of bringing the information forward, the Liberal government suppressed this information. The government has got to come clean. It makes you wonder, they are allowing days of their agenda to be sidelined to protect the government from releasing this. You have to ask, what are they trying to hide that they're willing to sacrifice days and days of their legislation being held or debated in the House in order to cover up? Are they protecting the Minister of Industry? Are they protecting the Liberal government? Why are they not doing their job and protecting Canadians and taxpayers instead?
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Chilliwack.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to talk a bit about the decision of the former Industry Minister Navdeep Bains to appoint chair of the SDTC, who was clearly in conflict, having received funds from that same program. Did anyone warn the Minister of Industry, Navdeep Bains, at the time that there could be a conflict of interest? And if those warnings were given, what did Minister Bains do with that information?
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Chilliwack Hope for the question. He could have just reached over and asked, but I'm glad we put it on the record. This is not a new program, the STDC. It's been around for decades. Or I guess not surprisingly, knowing this government, it got a clean bill of health from the Auditor General up until about the time the Liberals took over. Navdeep Bains fired the board that provided excellent governance, that gave SDDC a clean bill of health, and appointed Liberal cronies. There was pushback, warnings from the board, from the existing board members, that this would be an issue. Instead, he turned his back on the advice, he turned his back on governance, he turned his back on taxpayers, and opened up the trough for Liberal insiders. And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of with this Green Slush Fund scandal.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Saanich Scofield.
you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for the historical reminder that this program was indeed around for decades and had a fine track record. It was created under former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, and it was extremely well managed in the former administration of Stephen Harper. I say that also recognizing that my predecessor as the member for Saanich Gulf Islands, Gary Lunn, was the Minister for Natural Resources, and quite frequently trotted out the impressive statistics that there was a significant multiplier factor, that money given through SDTC was actually more than government money because it prompted other private sector investments in cutting-edge technology. It's a tragedy that the program skidded into what is clearly a reeking scandal. Can my honourable colleague, he suggested some of the responses, what do we do to fix it? Because it was a good program.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
There's a simple plan to fix this. I'd like to thank my colleague for recognizing my friend, former Minister Marr. I used to live in Victoria and used to work with them. Sorry. Sorry, Gary Lund. I'm thinking of a different minister, but Gary Lund, I used to work with him when I was in Victoria, a wonderful gentleman. There's a clear answer to corruption.
Kelly, you're funny.
Government and install a conservative government who will fix STDC and have it perform.
That's pretty funny.
Before.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for the honourable parliamentary secretary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, the member is right when he says that the Parliament has the supreme authority to make the requests that they have. The issue is that of the Charter of Rights. You see, the Liberal Party or the Government of Canada does not believe you should be walking over individuals' rights, that you shouldn't at a whim be using things like the notwithstanding clause. The Conservative Party seems to feel that they don't have to worry about the Charter of Rights, Madam Speaker. And the question is, why is the Conservative Party today putting a fog over the area of judicial independence because of their behavior, which, by the way, is making the Auditor General and the RCMP institution uncomfortable by what they're doing?
Madam Speaker, the hypocrisy of this gentleman is stunning. There's a gentleman that this government, member's government, persecuted, Admiral Mark Norman, one of the most respected members of our military. And I want to quote January 2017, Admiral Norman was suspended from his position without explanation. The reason he was suspended because he went against a purchasing decision that went against the benefit of the Irving family, great friends of the Liberal Party. January 27th, suspended. April 2017, the PM tells reporters that Mark Norman will likely end up before the courts. Less than a year later, the Prime Minister says again in a town hall that Mark Norman will inevitably lead the issue to lead to court processes. Where was this member standing up for a brave Canadian servant like Mark Norman? You know where he was? Busy spouting hypocrisies in this House. He should be ashamed by his comments today.
It's a very brief question from the honourable member for Sarnia-Lent.
And thank you to my colleague for his brilliant speech as usual. It seems to be a pattern of behavior, corruption and cover-up with this government. We saw that with the Winnipeg lab and we've seen it in numerous instances. Can he elaborate on the pattern of behavior that he's seeing?
The honourable member for Edmonton West, like 10 seconds.
Conservatives got no chill today.
There's fire and there's more smoke of the corruption from this government than we saw over Jasper this summer. Thank you.
Ouch. National Park, please specify.
We'll have about four minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and as always, it's a pleasure to stand in the House on behalf of my constituents.
Mary Miss with the new channel membership, thank you. And Stacey Nat with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you very much.
Common sense conservatives calling on the government, the SDTC, which is the Sustainable Development Technology Canada, and the Auditor General to hand over all documents related to the Prime Minister's Green Slush Fund to the RCMP. Now, that matter was decided in the House of Commons by a vote of the House of Commons. And one of the privileges of parliamentarians of this House is, in fact, to call for the production of papers, to demand papers from the government. And as we know, right now we are in a privileged debate because the Speaker himself has determined that there is a prima facie case. On the face of it, it appears as though the government has violated the privileges of members of Parliament. That's why we are now days into a discussion about the Prime Minister's refusal to comply with a direct order of the House.
Wow.
Refusing to comply with an order of the House by this government violates each and every one of our privileges. And as is evidenced by the fact that no other business is allowed to take place. The Speaker has said no other business may take place until this matter is disposed of. Because it is so serious when members' collective rights or members' individual rights are violated, that the House must stop all other business. All other business goes to the bottom of the pile until we have addressed this issue. So this is as serious as it gets for Parliament. There's no bills being debated. There are no private members' bills being debated because this is the most important issue that we have to deal with, and it's all because the government has refused to comply with a lawful order of this House of Commons. But, Madam Speaker, after question period, I will be happy to continue to talk about this and about the pattern of corruption and ignoring the will of Parliament that this Liberal government, enabled by their friends in the NDP, has undertaken. But this is a serious matter. Our collective rights as a House of Commons have been threatened. The Speaker has said there is a prima facie case for this to be discussed, for this to be considered, and it must take precedence over every other matter that is before the House. So I know I don't have a lot of time before SO31 start, but I look forward to, after question period, resuming this discussion about the government's breach of the privileges of members of this place, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member will have another 6 minutes, 7 minutes to 16 minutes, yes. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The honourable member.
All right.
Rotzi.
Madam Speaker, a well-known singer-songwriter.
Things are going to pick up, folks.
Passed away after
just shy of 4,000 people in here.
Ken Tobias was born.
Let's see if we can get some likes
and brought joy and beauty to the world
on the stream.
60 years with his music.
Lots of people have already purchased the Only Scams
It sold more than 2 million
stickers, the new sticker bundle, which is linked as the pinned comment and linked down below in the description, folks. For those that haven't seen it, this is what it looks like right here, new sticker bundle. Highly recommend everyone goes and check it out before it is completely sold out.
Classics Awards for 100,000 airplays of a given song. Madam Speaker, music is what can unite us all, and Ken was a shining example of that. We will be forever grateful for his contribution to Canadian music. His legacy and his music will live on. My condolences to his family, friends, and his fans. He will be sorely missed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, this year is the 60th anniversary of the Montcalm Council 5523, better known as the Knights of Loretteville. This charitable group plays a major role in our community and helps the poorest among us. We can always count on the Knights when it comes time for a bee and to help people in need. And for more than 40 years, these Knights have held their famous flea market that drew thousands of people to the Loretteville Arena. And each year, this market raised $40,000 to $60,000 to be redistributed to those in need. Thousands of volunteers over the past 60 years have ensured real solidarity and mutual support that we need in our society. Madam Speaker, please allow me to commend the memory of a former Grand Knight, Mr. Alphonse Lacasse, who with his family welcomed my family when we set up at Chateau d'Eau in '62. Happy anniversary to the Knights of Loretteville for their first 60 years of existence, and may they have 60 more.
Honourable member from Brampton North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. October is Autism Awareness Month in Canada, a time that reminds us of the lived realities of Canadians living with autism and families supporting them. Recently, our government tabled the Framework for Autism that outlines the principles and best practices to guide national autism policy, programs and activities in Canada. The Public Health Agency has also launched Canada's Autism Strategy, which is a multi-year action plan to implement that framework. We're also launching a process to create a national autism network that will bring together the skills and resources of autism organizations and stakeholders, including people living with experience, to support implementation of activities guided by the framework and strategy. While the work we're doing is crucial, we know that families need more help from those who deliver health care in the country. It's time for the provinces to step up and do their part to support families so they can give their loved ones the best possible care. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Yesterday, Quebec lost a free man. Daniel Pinard left us, and Quebec owes him so much. Through a mythical food show, Ciel Mon Pinard, he transformed the relationship between Quebecers and their food. With him, a tomato, salt, and a piece of bread became gastronomic. Recipes were measured out, but were allowed to be played with. He freed the imagination and the taste buds of his many watchers, and he asked them to savor their food. Mr. Pinard laughed, was delighted, and ate his food with great
Making
pleasure.
some popcorn.
2 books of
Let's go.
recipes
10 minutes of
and
question
recipes
period.
were read
Ain't that
with
the
great
truth?
pleasure across Quebec.
Emmanuel with the membership. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Channel members,
Justice and social and
you get 15% off the new sticker pack.
Sociologist, a Democrat.
Make your way to the community tab
He loves
post
teaching about the pleasures of the table. To
of
all
this
those
channel,
who have loved him, and
you'll see the code.
I offer my sincere
and you get 15% off the new sticker
condolences
packs.
on behalf of the Bloc Québécois. The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, a few days ago, we learned with sadness that Mr. François Giguère had passed away. He was an example of community engagement and the defense of tenants' rights. Mr. Giguère advocated for many years for everyone to have access to a home, but he walked the talk thanks to initiatives like Solid, an organization that purchased aging apartment buildings, renovated them, and then offered them at reasonable rents to tenants.
John Darwent.
I had the
Thanks for the channel member.
meeting Mr. Giguère on many occasions, especially during election campaigns. With other community representatives, he ensured that all candidates were aware of their requests. He made Châteauguay a model in terms of social and
Make sure you guys are subscribed, and make sure that you've smashed that like button.
And I offer
This is going to be a pretty wild
his
ride.
friends, his colleagues, and all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, this Liberal government's reckless approach to public safety has unleashed chaos, crime, drugs, and disorder in our communities. Under this Liberal government's justice laws, violent offenders are released back on the streets. This catch-and-release system strains our police services and puts the men and women in uniform who dedicate their lives to serve and protect our communities at risk. Just last week, Constable Jim Peters, a Barrie police officer, was stabbed while on duty by a repeat violent offender who was on probation at the time of the stabbing. Thankfully, Jim is recovering. Over the past 2 years, this accused individual has been arrested and released 17 times and has had over 100 interactions with Barrie Police Service. This rampant crime and chaos must end. My Conservative colleagues and I will continue to advocate for strict bail rules that will ensure repeat offenders remain behind bars. Canada's Conservatives want to thank all police and peace officers across our country for their hard work and dedication in keeping our communities safe.
The Honourable Member from Surrey Newton.
I rise today to honour the Sikh Motorcycle Club of British Columbia and one of their remarkable leaders, Mr. Avtar Singh Dhillon. Mr. Dhillon immigrated to Canada in 1970, and as a baptized Sikh, he could not obtain a motorcycle
Don't even start, chat.
because of his turban. Backed by the support of the local Sikh community, Mr. Dhillon filed a complaint.
Don't even. Don't even.
1999,
I already know what you guys are going to say.
BC government to amend helmet laws to accommodate riders with turbans. Due to Mr. Dhillon's tireless advocacy, members of the Sikh community can be seen riding proudly with their faith intact. Thank you to Mr. Avtar Singh Dhillon and all the members of the Sikh Motorcycle Club for your continued dedication, activism, and service to the community.
The honourable member from Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, I was thrilled to present the King Charles III coronation
Crying out
bill.
loud.
20 deserving individuals
For crying out loud.
made a significant contribution
Stop it,
to
chat.
communities
Stop
in
it.
Canada.
Behave.
Commemorating the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III and his lifetime of commitment.
The chat lagged on my end, so like 200 messages showed up in 2 seconds.
For their dedicated service to bettering their communities and the lives of others.
The poor man's poet 33 with the 20 American.
Time to celebrate the accomplishments of
Holy
others and
smokes.
the positive impact.
What's up, man? Keep fighting the good fight. Here, have some climate change medicine.
These individuals
You want to go after axing the tax?
service and selflessness.
Donate your money away.
And
You spend less in carbon tax.
Recipients of this
That's a good
honor.
approach, eh?
Our country is better.
Thanks for that. I appreciate the 20.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Pam, you ain't made for politics. Come on.
Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of NDP Liberal failures, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up. Just weeks after the U.S.
Matthew with the membership.
Canada with a
Thank you, Matthew.
14.5% tariff, the Prime Minister dismissed his failures on softwood lumber as a small issue. The doubling of softwood lumber tariffs puts thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. Forestry is New Brunswick's largest industry. It contributes $1.5 billion to the New Brunswick economy and employs 24,000 workers. Over the past 9 years and 3 U.S. presidents, this Prime Minister has failed to get a deal for Canadian forestry workers that former Conservative Prime Minister Harper did in his first 80 days. A common-sense Conservative government will get a deal done with our American neighbours to bring home powerful paychecks for our Canadian forestry workers.
The honourable member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Make sure you guys smash that like button, eh? Let's try and get over 4,000 people in here.
19,000 businesses in Vaughan. Our city's entrepreneurial spirit is second to none. We see it from family-run businesses like Sweet Boutique to innovators like Summer Fresh Salads and dedicated visionaries like Quality Cheese, all in Vaughan Woodbridge. Vaughan is York Region's economic engine, fueled by its entrepreneurs.
Rub-a-duck with the new channel member.
Everything Canada
Thank
needs,
you.
and I will always have their backs. To help Canadian businesses thrive, we have invested in them through the Canada
Welcome, Rub-a-duck.
and the My Main Street programs. We lowered the small business tax rate from 11% to 9%, saving businesses $6 billion every year. And Mr. Speaker, by this year end, we are delivering to them $2.5 billion through the Canada Carbon Rebate for small businesses and cutting credit card transaction fees by up to 27% or $1 billion over 5 years. Mr. Speaker, this is what real leadership and commitment to economic growth and prosperity for small businesses looks like. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then I have the honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, as we expected, yesterday's block motion was defeated by the Liberal government, which says that once again that all their words over the past week were worth nothing. What is the bloc worth? It simply spends more, it creates more public servants, all with Quebecers' money. What is its objective today? Well, it voted with the Liberals and the NDP to prop up the current government, this government that constantly interferes in areas of provincial jurisdiction. The Bloc had the chance to work with the future Conservative government to topple the government in place, or at least to negotiate for Quebecers on woodland caribou. They must be the worst negotiators in history. The Bloc sells its soul to the Liberals and gets nothing in return for Quebec, and now it's saying that it's going to topple the government on October 29th.
No, they're going to topple the government before October 29th.
Rest assured that once the elections have been called, the Conservatives will be there to defend the interest of Canadians and to reestablish common sense.
The honourable member from Tobic-Matquack.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. This punitive and ineffective carbon tax is hurting New Brunswickers. Whether it's our seniors trying to keep up with the ever-increasing cost of living while on fixed income, or young
families trying to make ends meet, or those who keep our land, grow and haul our food. They are all suffering under the weight of this cumbersome and burdensome tax. So much so that New Brunswick's courageous and common sense Premier
Jamie with the 20.
and has announced that he will be launching a legal challenge.
Keep the good info coming. Love your channel.
Quadrupling of the
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate
we
that.
could not support him more. Premier Higgs, alongside 7 out of 10 premiers across the country, are saying enough is enough. Yep. We simply can no longer afford this costly coalition. But I have hope, Mr. Speaker. Hope that help is on the way. And I hear a train a-coming, and under the leadership of our great conductor,
Johnny Cash reference.
Build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Johnny Cash reference. You win me over with a Johnny Cash reference. Let's go.
The honourable member from Winnipeg North.
I have some concerns about foreign interference. You know, CBC reported over the summer, and I quote, a report from the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians says there was 2 incidences of alleged interference by China in the Conservative Party of Canada's leadership race. Mr. Speaker, you know, it begs the question why it is the far-right leader of the Conservative Party refuses to get the security clearance that's necessary.
Hobby dude, the code doesn't work. I just checked it out right now since you said it on both packs. The packs, the sticker packs, and it does work.
Colleagues.
Aries War with the 5. What does a horse and Trudeau have in common in 1992? Answer is a major scandal. I like that.
By members is an important standing order in this place for us to be able to speak to our constituencies or to offer messages that each member has designed. The honourable members, it's a
Look at that. Look at that. Oh, they're screwed. They are screwed today, folks. Look at that. The Conservatives ain't joking around. You have very few mute opportunities left, Greg Fergus.
I'm going to ask the honourable member from Wellington Halton Hills to not take the floor until he's recognized for doing so that members can make their statements without interruption. I'm going to invite the honourable member from Winnipeg North to start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I am concerned about foreign interference. You know, over the summertime, we had an interesting report from CBC. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, a report from the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians says there were 2 instances of alleged interference by China in the Conservative Party of Canada's leadership races. Is there any wonder why the leader of the far-right Conservative Party today doesn't want to get the security clearance in order to get to the bottom of security issues dealing with foreign interference, Mr. Speaker? It got me thinking, is there something about the past from the leader of the Conservative Party that he believes will disqualify him from getting the clearance? Why won't the leader of the Conservative Party today get the security clearance so that he can get a better understanding of what the reality of foreign interference is really about?
Oh my goodness. Folks, buckle up, get a coffee, get situated, smash the like button, subscribe. This is going to be the most heated QP we have ever seen.
Members, after I just asked one member to please not raise their voice, I'm going to ask the honourable member from Niagara Centre please not to do so as well, and all other members to do so. There are several tools which are available to the Speaker to ensure order, and it would be a real regret to have to use them. The honourable member from Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, I am privileged to raise for the first time as the new MP for the riding of Elmwood Transcona. I humbly thank the voters for sending me here to be their voice in the chamber. I want to thank the volunteers and the great campaign team for their dedication and hard work. I would not be here without their help. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Elma Transcona has been my home for my whole life, and I'm proud to say I love my community. I assure the people of Elma Transcona that I will dedicate myself to fighting for the issues that matter to them day
Yeah, nobody cares, Layla. Piston Brook with the $13.99. Thank you. Kevin Lamoureux looks like he's made a few dozen turns under his sheets last night.
and to support local programs that improve
Wonder if he's had
my neighbors.
more hair than when he started sleep.
their behalf.
Ryan with the new membership. Thank you, folks. I appreciate the support. Keep in mind, I'm not going to be reading out some chats when QP is live. Once they start, which is going to be any moment.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Union des producteurs agricoles of Quebec is celebrating its 100th anniversary this week. That's 100 years of solidarity, resource pooling, and standing together, because doing so makes us stronger. 100 years of inspiration.
I see a channel member just ordered a sticker pack. Thank you very much.
And ensure the development of our regions and our communities.
I see the discount code worked.
And thank you. Solidarity is what guarantees success. And this success will be shared among all of you who are links in an important chain. And that is a beautiful thing, because it allows the people who feed us to live in dignity. The UPA has fought many fights throughout its history, and it has a number of them still to come. And the strength of your group will ensure your success. Happy 100th anniversary.
The honourable member from Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, and time's up for the endless corruption and stonewalling. The Liberals are so desperate now that they grinded the House to a halt, all because they refuse to turn over all documents to the RCMP to fully investigate their latest scandal involving Liberal insiders. And let's just be clear about the magnitude of this corruption. The Auditor General found $400 million in taxpayers' money, either for projects that weren't eligible or for conflict of interest cases where Liberal insiders were approving millions of dollars to their own businesses. $0 returned to the Canadian taxpayer yet. All of this while millions of Canadians suffer under the cost of living crisis caused by this Liberal NDP government. 24 million people using a food bank every year. Thousands of encampments in the country. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are putting insiders before Canadians who are suffering. It's like the sponsorship scandal that defeated the last government. It's time for an election for Canadians to do the same thing again.
There you go. Richard with the $2 saying, I love you, man. Richard, I love you too. Thanks for the support. Mr. Excuses. Good answers. Freeland thinks it's Family Feud.
Mr. Speaker, I am
They're so freaking weird.
by the recent series of harassing and Islamophobic phone calls made to a Winnipeg mosque over the past several weeks. Places of worship should always be spaces of peace, safety, and community.
Terry's high on his own supply again.
Any religious group is an attack on all of us, and we must be united in denouncing such hatred. I stand with Winnipeg's Muslim community and indeed all communities facing hate speech during these challenging international times and conflicts worldwide. Our government recently launched our action plan on combating hate, which includes helping communities prevent and address hate while protecting vulnerable individuals and raising public awareness. Together, we all have a responsibility to promote unity and understanding and build a more inclusive society where everyone is free to practice their faith without fear. Thank you.
Well said, well said.
What about building a more inclusive government that's scandal-free? All questions! Questions! Honorable Leader of the Opposition, soon-to-be Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. Here we go, folks.
Mr. Speaker, this is the most costly centralizing government in Canadian history. This government is bad for Quebec. The government has broken the immigration system, doubled the cost of housing, and doubled the debt.
Damn, translator's coming out hot.
It's bizarre that the Bloc Québécois leader has become the worst negotiator in Canadian history. The Bloc Québécois leader decided to vote 2 more times their confidence in this government to keep them in power without gaining a thing for agriculture or for seniors. Does the government wish to thank the Bloc Québécois leader?
She's translating faster than Pierre's talking. How is that even possible? Oh, my goodness. W's in the chat for the translator. That was impressive.
Selkirk, Eastman, Interlake, please. The Honourable des Services.
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader mentioned that something is bizarre. Let me tell you what's bizarre. In Canada, there are 2.4 million seniors who received their Canada Dental Care Plan. 800,000 of them are in Quebec. Several 100,000 Canadians have been able to receive dental care, sometimes for the first time in decades. It's odd, though, because the Conservative leader says that the Canada Dental Care Plan does not exist. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Parliament seems to be paralyzed because the Prime Minister goes against your judgment. The Prime Minister refuses to give evidence to the RCMP about yet another Liberal scandal. The scandal is that top execs appointed by Liberals paid $400 million to their own businesses, which is a total of 184 conflicts of interest, according to the Auditor General. Why would the Prime Minister go against your government and refuse to provide evidence in yet another Liberal scandal? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Translator's on point today.
What the Opposition Leader just said is completely false. These Conservatives currently are trying to do away with charter-protected rights by using extraordinary powers. They want to take independence away from police in our society. They don't seem to understand what a dangerous precedent they are starting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Paralyzed, unable to work on the problem of doubling housing costs or 2 million people at the food bank because the government is refusing to respect your ruling to turn over evidence in the criminal investigation of the latest.
Wow.
The issue is that Liberal appointees directed $400 million to companies they own involving 184 conflicts of interest, according to the Auditor General. Why is the Prime Minister breaking your ruling to cover up criminal evidence in the latest Liberal scandal?
W's for Pierre, man.
Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, the Leader of the Opposition is negating to tell the whole truth to Canadians, because what the Conservatives are doing are trying to use the extraordinary powers of this place to circumvent the judicial requirement of police to protect the charter rights of Canadians. Now, I want to believe that the Leader of the Opposition doesn't understand what he's doing, but I'm even more concerned that he does understand, and the charter rights of Canadians are not important to him.
Yeah, I don't think so, buddy pal.
Leader of the Opposition.
It should be no surprise that Liberals believe that white-collar criminals can hand over $400 million to their own companies, because we see the case of the dirtbag Tibor Organo, who shot a police officer in the stomach yesterday while on bail after having been arrested for 24 offenses he committed while he was out on probation. So let's get this straight. He's out on probation for many crimes. He gets arrested for violating probation, so he gets released on bail and shoots a police officer. When will this government finally accept that their hug-a-thug, catch-and-release system is putting our people at risk?
Hug-a-thug! How does Pierre come up with all these?
In the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to the police officer, because no police officer should be hurt in the line of duty. But, Mr. Speaker, what is extremely concerning is what the Leader of the Opposition is doing in this House today, where he is trampling the charter rights of Canadians. Whether it is in this House, whether it is outside, Canadians need to be extremely alarmed about the fact that when it comes to their rights, his first instinct is to trample over them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hug-a-thug. Let's get some hug-a-thugs down in the comments.
The Opposition.
think you have a charter right to get released after 24 offenses while you're already on probation and shoot a police officer in the stomach. I'm more worried about the charter rights of the police officer who's recovering from the gunshot.
Yeah. From that hugga thug policy.
This is what the police officer said. Almost everyone we arrest is out on bail. No one stays in jail where they belong. The city and the feds just don't care. It just doesn't bother them. It doesn't matter how many die and if a cop gets shot.
That's right.
What's wrong with you people?
Yeah! Whoa! Hugga thug policies. What's wrong with you liberals, man? You got people killing other people that are released out on bail. Cop killers.
The opposition as well as all members of parliament.
The hell's wrong with you too, Fergus?
And answers should be directed through the chair. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, when the men and women in uniform in my city of Toronto or right across the country are harmed in the course of their work, they deserve our absolute respect and solidarity, which we always provide to them. In terms of decisions that are made about bail, these are important considerations. They're considerations where we've made amendments to the bail regime. What happens after amendments are made at the federal parliament is that the ball turns over to the provinces. We need to ask genuine questions about who's making decisions about granting or denying bail. Provincially appointed JPs. About provincial crowns who are making decisions about whether to review bail and what kind of conditions to impose. Those are questions that need to be asked because we need...
Protect first responders, man. This government doesn't give a shit about first responders.
Not take the floor until he is recognized. L'honorable député de La Prairie.
The honourable member for La Prairie. The House's will is clear. Yesterday, the House demanded that the government give a royal recommendation to C319 to increase old age security by 10% for 65 to 74-year-olds. This is the only permanent solution to put an end to having two classes of seniors. So the Liberals have a choice. Either they respect the will of elected representatives, or they will learn the hard way that voters side with seniors too. Will they give C319 a royal recommendation, or will they have to update their CVs? The Honourable Minister of Labour and
This is so rotten.
Mr. Speaker, the member for La Prairie's CV has something rather important. His CV shows that he voted against the new federal Canadian dental care plan. 6,900 people from his riding are signed up for the Canadian dental care plan, Mr. Speaker. The whole Bloc Québécois, every time we put forward measures to help Quebec's seniors, the Bloc Québécois votes against them, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for La Prairie. Well, surely the minister knows that in his riding alone, the riding of Gatineau,
look at him screaming.
Seniors aged 65 to 74 who he is depriving of 10% of their OAS. He's the one who's responsible for that. He's the minister for his seniors. He and his buddies created two classes of seniors, and now they're fighting to preserve that injustice against the will of this House. Can he explain to the 30,000 seniors in his riding why, instead of offering them so much as one more penny, he prefers to go to the polls?
Yeah, they're gonna friggin' call an election, man.
There are 30,000 seniors in Gatineau. They, like all seniors in Quebec, like all seniors in Canada, still are so happy about the Liberal government's track record when it comes to helping seniors. We've helped some of the most vulnerable seniors in our society, Mr. Speaker. We enhanced the GIS. We immediately, after forming government, we worked towards eventually implementing dental care. The Bloc Québécois was against it, but the Liberal Party is there for the 30,000 seniors in Gatineau and seniors everywhere in Canada.
Smash that like button, folks. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss a single beat.
I would like to remind the member for Rivière-du-Nord, as well as the member for New Westminster Burnaby, to not take the floor when they have not been recognized by the chair. The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the housing crisis is raging across the country. Under the Liberals, rent doubled. People can't find homes that they can afford. the Conservatives, they would have us believe that they're the solution, when actually they're part of the problem. When he was Minister of Housing, the Conservative leader built 6 apartments, 6 units. Meanwhile, he also let 800,000 homes be sold off to big real estate developers who just want to get rich on the backs of everyone else. The Liberals and the Conservatives created this housing crisis. Why should we trust them to solve it? The Honourable Minister of Public Services.
Libs are done, man.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have
everybody's attacking them.
Respect for my colleague, but he was too generous to the Conservative leader's time as housing minister. He didn't build 8 units; he built 6 units during his entire time as housing minister. Yet, the leader of the Conservative Party has no problem telling Quebec's mayors that they're incompetent. And also, he says that in housing co-ops, people live Soviet style. He says it's Soviet style to have social housing.
From Port Moody, Coquitlam.
Continue to violate the human rights of persons with disabilities. Even while they're getting sued by their own accessibility commissioner, this government continues to propose an inadequate and inaccessible Canada disability benefit. This is cruel and callous. This government has received over 10,000 pieces of input through consultation, and the Cabinet needs to act on it. Will the Liberals finally listen to the disability community, increase the benefit, unlock it from behind the inaccessible disability tax credit, and get it out to people now?
The Honourable Minister for Disability Inclusion.
Mr. Speaker, our government has done more than any other government when it comes to supporting and building a more accessible Canada. Once again, our government is stepping up, delivering a new historic support in the Canada Disability Benefit, which is going to help over 600,000 Canadians with disabilities. While the NDP and the Conservatives are focused on their own political ambitions, Mr. Speaker, we're focused on delivering for some of the most vulnerable in our communities. And Mr. Speaker, we're on track to deliver this benefit next July. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, bad news keeps rolling in from credible financial experts. This week's Economist, quote, were Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories an American state, they would have gone from being slightly richer than Montana, America's 9th poorest state, to being a bit worse off than Alabama, the 4th poorest. Alabama. To fix a problem, one has to admit that it exists. Will the government admit that under its policies, Canada is now poorer than Alabama, America's 4th poorest state?
That is insane. Like, that's depressing.
The Honourable Minister for Digital Services.
Speaker, the Conservatives are very particular about what statistics they choose to share. If they want to share, compare Canada to the U.S.
The Honourable Minister from Digital Services can start again from the top.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are very careful about the statistics they choose to share. If they want to compare us to the United States, we might start with health care or dental care or farmer care or child care. But if they want to focus on the economy, they might focus on the fact that we have a lower deficit, that we have lower debt servicing costs, that we pay a lower interest rates than America does, that we have higher forecast economic growth. The unfortunate thing is because of the dangerous promises of the Leader of the Opposition, they don't want Canadians to hear about that, which is why they're promising to cancel the CBC.
The Conservatives are like pissing themselves laughing.
What? From Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, this data, these statistics aren't coming from Conservatives. They're coming from credible financial experts at the Financial Times of London and The Economist, 2 organizations for which the finance minister wants to work, and surely the government isn't suggesting these organizations are biased. Again, to fix a problem, one has to admit that it exists. Will the government admit that under its spending, its budgets, its plans, Canada is now poorer than Alabama, America's 4th poorest state?
Wow, no fucking around today. Sorry, no messing around today.
The Honourable Minister for Services.
Of course not, Mr. Speaker. What the member opposite is saying is ridiculous. The truth is that the Leader of the Opposition offers Canadians no viable solutions. On housing, they want to add 5%.
Look in the background, Elizabeth May with her 2 seats. She's planning what they're going to say at the end of it. Was there a flask sticking out of her pocket? Somebody look.
Sit down.
The Honourable...
When we see her again.
For Digital Services from the top, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. They don't want to hear this information.
Is she snoozing?
I mean, the truth is the Leader of the Opposition offers no solutions for Canadians. On housing, he wants to add 5% tax on apartment construction. On affordability, doesn't support dental care, doesn't support pharmacare, doesn't support childcare. He doesn't support the tax cuts that we gave for the middle class, doesn't support the tax cuts we gave for small business, and worst of all, is he doesn't want anybody to hear about this, which is why he wants to cancel the CBC and take that away from Canadians as well.
They didn't even mention CBC. Are you good, bro?
The Honourable Member from Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, the Financial Times wrote 1 year ago, if current trends continue, Canadian living standards would continue to decline. It's been a year and it's gotten worse. This week, The Economist said that Canada is now poorer than Alabama. Will any minister over there admit that Canadian living standards are in decline?
Oh, Mark, he's pissed. Look at him. 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 He's so angry. Look at Mark Holland. I think he's going to start shaking. He's clenching his fists.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is now the second member to admire Alabama and say that Alabama
with his little bow tie.
I think Canada's the greatest nation on earth. Exactly. And I think I'm really proud of this country and what we're doing. I'm proud of our healthcare system, Mr. Speaker. And when you take a look at the Conservatives are filibustering in committee right now a study of privatizing healthcare, no wonder they have an admiration of the American model, because they want to clear-cut our healthcare system. They won't. You talk about not acknowledging a problem. They have no solutions for the gaps that we have in care. We do. We're delivering. We're going to keep doing it.
The Liberals are just getting pummeled today.
North.
Mr. Speaker, that minister wants Canadians to believe that they've never had it so good. But here's what Canadians are actually experiencing. The worst housing inflation, the worst mortgage debt, the worst consumer debt in the G7. Income per person today is lower than it was 10 years ago. And now the OECD says Canada real GDP growth will be last among its member nations until 2060. So will they finally admit that under their leadership, Canadian living standards are declining?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I think he's got you there, Mark. You guys hear that?
That in every corner of the globe, that there are challenges, and that you can cherry pick statistics here or there. But the question is, what do you do as a country to meet the challenging moments you're in? The Conservatives' answer is to provide a slogan and no plan. I just invite people to pull back the curtain like the Wizard of Oz and just see what's back there. Not a thing. Not a single thing. In difference and in contrast, we have a plan. Since last I spoke in this House, we've gained 50,000 people in dental care. That's 800,000 people getting care on something they won't even admit exists. This is about doing hard work and doing the right thing, Mr. Speaker.
We gained more subscribers on this channel than you did dental care people. Come on. That's not a good program.
Mr. Speaker, when this government was elected in 9 years, they were elected with false promises, and now Canada is totally broken. This government has spent recklessly and has posted deficits every single year. So what's the result of that? The debt has doubled over 9 years. Also, this Prime Minister has increased Canada's debt more than all other Prime Ministers combined. The OECD projects that Canada's economic growth will be the worst of all OECD member countries over the next 30 years. Can they do the only honorable thing left for them to do, which would be to call an election?
Wow.
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One thing has increased over the past few years. That is this government's investment in affordable housing. Your debt. Before the member was elected, her party's leader, who used to be housing minister, created a grand total of 6 affordable housing units. Meanwhile, in his riding, there are We have now built 305 affordable units, and even more will be built through a historic agreement we signed with the province of Quebec. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Échemins, Lévis.
Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, eh? We're pretty close to 116,000.
Behind our neighbor and trade partner, the United States, when it comes to economic growth and productivity. Is it normal that the economy of Texas is stronger than that of all Canadian provinces put together, and they have 10 million fewer people in that state? This government and its budget policy has tanked Quebec's economy and Canada's economy. Conservatives want change. Canadians want control over their lives. Conservatives want to do that for them. The only thing to do is call an election. Will you call an election? As I have already mentioned, all questions should be addressed to the chair. I'm sure that the honourable member didn't have that question just for me. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind my colleague and all Quebecers that the last time the Conservatives formed government, the Harper government did not balance the books in Canada. They ran a deficit. They cut services for... They, in fact, cut taxes for the wealthy and cut services for everyone else. We all remember the Harper government cuts to science. They also cut the census. We all remember that they thought we didn't need data on the Canadian population. Conservatives, when I think of Conservatives, I think of only one thing, Mr. Speaker, austerity. The Honourable Member for Shefford. The House has spoken. Yesterday, the House demanded a 10% increase in old age security for 65 to 74-year-olds. The House demanded that the government give a royal recommendation to C-319. This bill is the only way to provide lasting income protection for all seniors.
Voting on confidence, come on.
It is also the only lasting way to put an end to age-based discrimination against seniors. Will the government finally listen to the will of the House, listen to the will of seniors, and give C-319 its royal recommendation?
Voting on confidence. You can do it.
And seniors.
Do it for the people of Quebec.
In the Canton de l'Est, Eastern Townships, one of the most beautiful ridings in Quebec and in Canada, we're proud that in the riding of Shefford alone, 13,000 people, 13,300 people have signed up for the federal Canadian Dental Care Plan. They're very happy to be part of the plan, to benefit from it. My colleague, the member, she voted against it. Why? The Honourable Member for Shefford. The Minister for Seniors has spent the week lecturing others.
I keep seeing a phone in Mark Holland's hand.
He's depriving almost 30,000 people in...
I'm willing to bet he's watching the stream.
Increase.
Put hi Mark down in the chat.
He's the Minister for Seniors. He's the one leading the Liberal battle against the House's desire to support 65 to 74-year-olds. He's even prepared to risk an election to avoid having to increase pensions. Can he look the 30,000 seniors in his riding in the eye and explain to them why, in his opinion, they don't deserve a single cent more?
Then call it. You're not going to get it, so call it.
Seniors and Labour. Mr. Speaker, there are not 30,000 people between 65 and 74 years of age in Gatineau, but we'll leave that for another time. The seniors who do live in Gatineau are very happy, in fact. They're happy that we supported them during the pandemic. They are happy that we supported the most vulnerable seniors in Gatineau. Moreover, the Liberal government was there for seniors. We gave them the supports that they needed. We will continue to do so. The Bloc Québécois, though, will continue to vote against it. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Well, that's...
Wow, she's got some tood, eh? Holy smokes.
Helping seniors in their speeches that they give in Ottawa, but in reality, they let seniors down right in their own backyards. The Minister for Seniors, the member for Gatineau, is depriving almost 30,000 seniors of a 10% increase in their old age security. The Quebec lieutenant, whose riding is in Quebec City, is letting down almost 15,000 people. The Prime Minister, whose riding is in Montreal, is depriving nearly 10,000 seniors of income. Honestly, with MPs like them, wouldn't it be better for us all to go to the polls?
They're ready, and you got the French Conservative in the front row saying, do it, do it.
Mr. Speaker, we can all remember that during the COVID-19 pandemic, when it came time to be present in this House to support Canadians, be it enhancing the GST rebate, be it enhancing supports for seniors, enhancing healthcare spending. We invested in many ways to support seniors. I think we will all remember who was here supporting Quebec's seniors. It was the Liberal Party of Canada and its Quebec MPs, not the Bloc Québécois.
Andrew Scheer, here we go.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years of NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, time's up, and corruption is way up. Here's what we know so far. The Liberals stacked the SDTC board with their close friends. That board makes decisions as to which companies get grants worth millions in tax dollars. The Auditor General uncovered a massive scandal. These Liberal insiders funneled almost $400 million to their own companies. They got rich, taxpayers got the bill. Now the government's refusing to hand over the documents to the RCMP for a potential criminal investigation. So what have they got to hide?
Hey, man.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, again, the House Leader for the Conservatives is completely false in what he is stating in this place. What is true is that the Conservatives have put forward a motion that would blur the lines between the independence of the legislative and judicial branches of government. It is both the RCMP and the Auditor General who have raised their extreme concern with what the Conservatives have put forward. Every Canadian should be concerned about.
We are concerned about your scams.
Is to suspend the charter rights of Canadians.
Even the House Speaker said, all right, we need to figure this out.
The charter is there to protect the people from the government, not to protect the government from accountability by the.
Boom! Boom! W's!
Millions of Canadians are
line of the day.
Taxes, higher prices, and doubled housing costs, all caused by this government. The Speaker has ordered that the House of Commons can deal with no other business until this corruption motion is dealt with, and they still won't hand over the documents, preferring that Parliament grind to a halt. While millions of Canadians are lining up for food banks, Liberal insiders are lining their own pockets. So when will the government hand over the documents, and when will the government get Canadians their tax dollars back?
Man, that's the best quote I've heard in a long time. Good job, Scheer.
Mr. Speaker, I think my honourable colleague's erratic and unhinged behaviour is because he knows that he is being completely false in what he is putting forward to this place. Mr. Speaker, what the Conservatives are putting forward is to trample the charter rights of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Both the RCMP and the Auditor General have raised their extreme discomfort, and every single Canadian should be extremely alarmed by the behaviour of the Conservative members of Parliament who would put their own political interests ahead of the rights of Canadians.
I just want to remind all members to use language, make sure that it doesn't skate too close to the line. I made this point yesterday during question period as well when a question was asked from the other side. The honourable member from South Shore, St. Margaret's.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and conflict of interest is up at the Liberal Fund. The
New one.
General found that 82% of the transactions approved by Liberal insiders went to their own companies, totaling almost $400 million. This House demanded that the government turn over those documents to the RCMP, and this Prime Minister is refusing. Shame. How many more millions of misappropriated tax dollars is the Prime Minister hiding by refusing to turn over the documents?
Yes. The Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives don't want to share the uncomfortable truth that they are trying to use the extraordinary powers of this place to circumvent the judicial oversight that is required by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to protect Canadians. The only thing they are interested in is pursuing their naked pursuit for partisan gain while they trample the charter rights of...
Only thing getting trampled was old ladies at protests when the Liberals took away their Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Instead of protecting their rights, they are looking for their own political gain. Thank you, Mr.
She wants to use the word trample. Get out of here. Only scams by the Liberal government.
Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, since Orange Shirt Day, we've seen countless examples of residential school denialism, including from Conservative candidates in both New Brunswick and BC. And, Mr. Speaker, we know the leader of the Conservative Party supports this kind of rhetoric, having fundraised with residential school denying think tanks. Survivors have a right to be protected from hate speech. Will the government support my bill and protect survivors from residential school denialism once and for all?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Winnipeg Centre for her work in bringing forward the bill that will recognize residential school denialism as a hate crime. I look forward to working with her.
Oh my
we know that as we mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, this was a painful reminder that we need to do better to educate Canadians on the impacts of residential schools, as well as the hurtful acts of denialism that take place in many parts of the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 3 years since the tugboat in Janika sank, killing Troy Pearson and Charlie Craig. And it's been 2 years and 3 transport ministers since this government promised strengthened marine personnel regulations to protect workers like Troy and Charlie. And every single day, workers are going to sea without the protections that this government promised. So to the minister, how can she justify continued delays when workers' lives are on the line?
You're here.
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for his question. Safety is always our top priority.
Yeah, she's nervous. She ain't gonna last long.
Issues a report. We always carefully consider its recommendations, and this
allegedly one of the 11.
Also the case with the MV in Janika. We're working now to implement recommendations and strengthen safety measures, and we're working every step of the way with industry, with unions, and with experts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday was International Wrongful Conviction Day. In grade 7, I wrote a paper on David Milgaard, a prairie kid who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The injustice of his case was appalling. Immortalized through the tragically hip song Wheat Kings, it captured the attention of the nation. Too many innocent people have suffered over the years. In fact, just today, again in my hometown of Winnipeg, a wrongfully convicted man was exonerated. As Gord Downey reminded us, we can't be fond of living in the past. Can the Minister of Justice explain how Bill C-40 will help strengthen our legal system to protect against wrongful convictions in the future? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
I thank the member for his question, and I want to start with Clarence Woodhouse. My thoughts are with Clarence Woodhouse and the suffering he has endured unjustly for decades, as long as recognizing the suffering of all of those who have endured an injustice. The bill that he's referencing, David and Joyce Milgaard's law, will create real change. It will create an independent commission to review potential miscarriages of justice. It will revolutionize access to justice in Canada. To all innocent people who have been wrongfully convicted and whom are still awaiting justice, help is on the way. And to Clarence, I'm sorry for all of your suffering. Your story proves why we need to work harder for a better, fairer, and more equitable justice system for all.
The Honourable Member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Vito Lakes.
Carbon tax Carney took on a role as the de facto finance minister for the NDP Liberals, and almost immediately he got $2 million for his buddy who owns Telesat, and then he landed discussions for his trillion-dollar company Brookfield to get their hands on 10 billion Canadian pension dollars, and then he starts sending fundraising letters for these Liberals. After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time's up for their corruption. Will they simply cooperate with an investigation from the lobbying commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, they continue to try to smear a Canadian who is recognized around the world for his work. I want to go back to their weird admiration of Alabama. Did you know that Alabama has the 3rd lowest life expectancy in the United States? Did you know that the life expectancy in Alabama is a full decade lower than in Canada? Did you know
what is wrong with this guy?
The most restrictive rules around a woman getting access to an abortion or contraceptives? Is that what they admire about Alabama? Is that why they're talking about upping Alabama's and saying that Alabama is better than Canada? I wonder why they're so interested in Alabama, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lake.
What?
Well, I know we've been hearing about unhinged responses today, and there's one. You can check the answer. There was nothing about Alabama in here, but you could see that from noted Liberal strategist and commentator Trevor Tombe, who did make that comparison. But when we are making comparisons, you can make many to banana republics and the corruption under this NDP Liberal government, with the Prime Minister twice found guilty himself of breaking ethics laws. This government is absolutely out of touch after 9 years. And now they put in Mark Conflict of Interest Carney in charge of their economic policy. Why can't we just have a carbon tax election?
Yeah. Mark Holland's hands are literally shaking. You can see him down there. He's literally shaking.
Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand why the member opposite's getting a little riled up, because there's some uncomfortable truths that are being put forward here. And while they continue to talk down Canadians and talk down our country, the bigger concern is what they're trying to do in this place, where they are overriding the charter rights of Canadians. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to privacy rights, and indeed when it comes to a woman's right to choose, what we know the first inclination of Conservative Member of Parliament to do is to take them away. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
A $1 trillion everything corporation that's currently asking for billions of tax dollars recently faced shareholder calls for transparency after a scathing report raised questions about whether Brookfield engages in tax avoidance strategies when it comes to paying Canadian tax. The Liberals just appointed Brookfield's board chair, carbon tax promoting Mr. Carney, to craft Canada's economic policy. The Liberals won't say if they cleared this with the lobbying commissioner. Are the concerns Brookfield shareholders had about tax transparency the reason why?
The honourable leader of the government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, this is another typical attack from the Conservatives against Canadians who do not support their vision for Canada. We have seen this over the last 9 years, that when Canadians, and it's, I guess, hurtful for them when it's people they appointed to important positions that come forward and don't actually agree with their vision of Canada, what do? They attack them. They bring them down. They are not open to debate or to criticism, and their only inclination is to attack fellow Canadians.
The honourable member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
This is, Mr. Speaker, as another typical Liberal scandal. The Conflict of Interest Act prohibits ministers from furthering interests of their friends, which is why the Act requires ministers to declare close friendships with people who lobby. The finance minister has frequently mentioned her close personal friendship with the chair of Brookfield.
Wow.
And who now holds a senior Liberal economic advisory position. In describing her relationship with the carbon tax promoting Mr. Carney, the minister said things like, "Truly, Mark is a personal friend of mine, very long-standing. I speak with Mark often, and he's the godfather of my son." Has the minister declared her friendship with the world's...
The honourable government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, again, this is just a simple personal attack because the Conservatives are sad or disappointed that there are eminent Canadians that don't support their dangerous vision of Canada, to be honest. There's a reason why Canadians who have global recognition are working to support a progressive vision of this country. But what we see from the Conservatives is that when Canadians or organizations don't support them, all they do is attack.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. If the Liberals want to stay in power past October 29th, they need to get moving for our farmers. Bill C-282, one simple clause to protect supply management, has been stuck in the Senate for over a year. Why? Well, because Peter Beam and Peter Harder, two unelected mini-monarchs appointed to the Senate by the Liberals, are actively blocking a bill that was supported by the majority of members of this House. Will the Liberals make sure that their senators respect democracy and adopt Bill C-282?
Karina's one of the 11, people are saying. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, man.
The Honourable Minister
I wouldn't doubt it for a
Public
second.
Works and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Party has always supported supply management in Canada.
They swapped out the translator.
It's a Liberal government that put in place supply management many years ago. We have always been there to support farmers. We have also voted in favor of this supply management bill. The senators know that they are independent, but the senators know they need to get their work done and listen to the House and the will of the House. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. All parties should be furious to see senators blocking the will of the House. We can't let two unelected senators, and remember, they're unelected, decide between two naps to threaten Quebec's farmers. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about farmers. They don't care about 6,000 businesses in Quebec. They don't care about 100,000 jobs in Quebec. They don't care about Quebecers. That's enough. So I call on all parties in this House, and farmers are listening. Will they pick up the phone and tell their senators to respect democracy and pass Bill C-282?
You're not going to get it, so you might as well vote for non-confidence.
The Honourable Minister
Let's get the ball rolling.
Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I already said a couple of moments ago that the Liberal government has always stood behind supply management to protect farmers in Quebec and farmers across Canada. We've shown that many times, including during difficult trade negotiations with President Trump. We held the line. We insisted. We won against President Trump to protect the interests of farmers in Quebec and across Canada. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. After 9 years of this Prime Minister, supported by the Bloc, Liberal corruption has taken over the House of Commons. Once again, the Prime Minister is ready to do anything to protect his little buddies who follow his example and make a mockery of ethics and conflict of interest rules. 186 conflicts of interest in the Liberal Green Fund involving $330 million of public money. $330 million, Mr. Speaker, that's 7 times more money than the sponsorship scandal. Why is the Prime Minister refusing to hand over all the documents requested by the House to the RCMP? What's so corrupt in there that they're once again ignoring an order of this House? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, once again, Conservative members are not presenting accurate information to Canadians because it's Conservative members who are destroying rights protected by the Charter, Canadians' rights. Canadians should be incredibly concerned by what the Conservative members are doing. They are blurring the line between the House of Commons and the legal process. That's very, very concerning, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Canadians' rights are more important right than this government to hide things from Canadians. The Liberals are trying to end the privilege debate, and they could do it by being honest and transparent by giving the documents to the House right away. Conservatives have proved that parliamentary privilege has been violated. The Auditor General of Canada showed that the Prime Minister created a slush fund for Liberal insiders.
Yep.
His ministers were aware, and they allowed STDC to participate in corruption. The House is overflowing with Liberal corruption. When will Canadians see their money again?
That's the golden question.
Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, what my honourable colleague is saying is completely false. The Auditor General and the RCMP, what they've actually said is that they are extremely concerned by the Conservative motion because it is going to destroy Canadians' rights, and the House has the privilege to do that. Sorry?
Not sure what you're
I apologize. Unfortunately, I only looked at the clock, and the clock is incorrect. I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister to start her question from the top. This one is on me, dear colleagues, and I apologize. We'll make sure that the clock starts at the right time. The Honourable, then I have the...
That's all right, we can skip her.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What my honourable colleague is saying is completely false. What the Auditor General and the RCMP have said is that they are extremely concerned by what the Conservatives' motion represents in this House, because it limits Canadians' rights that are protected by the Charter. I know that Canadians' rights and the rights of Quebecers are very important, and it's the Conservatives who want to take away those rights for their own political gain. It's really concerning.
Then I have
the Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable had 2 opportunities to ask questions. I'm sure he could take another if his colleague will let him have that time. So otherwise, please don't speak unless being recognized. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has showed us that the Prime Minister broke the Conflict of Interest law by using a green fund managed by Sustainable Development Technology Canada to give gifts to his buddies. The Liberals have refused the legitimate demand of the Conservative Party to hand over documents from this slush fund to the RCMP for investigation. Mr. Speaker, these Liberal secrets represent 180 cases of conflict of interest for almost $400 million of taxpayer money. When are we going to see Canadians' money again?
It's all fallen down for the Liberals.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague has already answered several times. He's talking about secrets. And listen, there's something that I don't want to hide from you. Is in his riding, there are 11,900 seniors who got their card to become members of the new Canadian Dental Care Plan. And yet his leader has said, no, I can't tell you why I'm against the Canada Dental Care Plan, because it doesn't exist. I can't tell you why I'm against it, because it doesn't exist. How does he explain to seniors in his riding, the 11,900 in his riding, that the card they received doesn't exist? The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Louis. In 2021, we committed to strengthening and modernizing the Canadian Environmental Protection Act to better protect the environment and Canadians' health. With the passage of Bill S5, the Strengthening Environmental Protection for a Healthy Canada Act, we have kept that promise. Can the Minister for Environment and Climate Change please give us an update on the implementation of this new law?
Then I have the Minister.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question and for all his work.
Harry pot smoker's high on his own supply, eh?
Yesterday, our government announced additional measures to protect Canadians against pollution.
Which Randy is that?
We know that the Conservatives' priority when it comes to the environment is to give polluters a free pass. They want to give the oil and gas sector the right to pollute for free as much as they want. However, instead of listening to experts, they've listened to conspiracy theories like the Premier of Alberta, and they continue to spread misinformation.
From St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the shady business partner of the Minister of Employment testified that the Randy and text messages implicated in a $500,000 shakedown is someone other than the minister. But, surprise, surprise, when he was ordered by the Ethics Committee to identify this so-called other Randy, he refused to do so. Everyone knows why. Will the minister just stand in his place and admit it's him?
Look at the Conservatives. Hey, get up, Randy. Come on, Randy. Get up.
For the second time, and I hope the last time, I'm going to ask the Honourable Member.
The Speaker's getting a good kick out of it.
The floor, unless he is recognized by the Chair. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, when witnesses testify before committees, they are obliged to provide the information that is asked of them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, where is Randy? And speaking of not being forthcoming at committee, the minister testified that he had absolutely no communications with his shady business partner at or around the time of the $500,000 shakedown. But now that phone records have proven otherwise, the minister has been forced to admit that he phoned and texted his shady business partner at the very same time. If the minister isn't Randy in the text messages, then why did he hide this material fact from committee?
You see how the Conservatives, when they talk, they don't need notes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated earlier, if a witness is asked to provide information to a committee, we expect they provide it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Calgary, Midnapore.
After 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. Now, this government is no stranger to the bait and switch. It was the Prime Minister himself who said that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Yet all Canadians have received is fraud and corruption. So I was happy to see that the procurement ombudsman is going to undertake a study of the bait and switch practices of this government. But why does it always take another hand to force this government to do the right thing?
The honourable leader of the government in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd actually turn that question around on my honourable colleagues in front who have decided to abuse the power of this place, to use their powers to upend and override the charter rights of Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, if the Conservative Party members want to ask themselves how they can do the right things, it's to make sure they don't abuse the powers of this place and they protect the charter rights of Canadians.
Charter is there to protect people from government, not government from people.
From Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, this fall, thousands of young Canadians are starting their post-secondary journey, including at UBC in my riding of Vancouver Quadra. These students are our future, and our government recognizes we have a role to play in helping them with the cost of living. They shouldn't be stressed out about paying tuition and rent, but rather they should be able to focus on their classes. Agreed. Will the Minister of Employment and Workforce Development please tell this House just what our government is doing to support students right across the country? Excellent question.
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
The Conservative members in this House are congratulating us for all the work we're doing to make life easier for students. Whether it's taking off federal interest on student loans, whether it's making those student loans even doubling them, Mr. Speaker, you know what we're doing? We're making sure that apprentices are trained from coast to coast to coast. We've increased student loans. We've taken off the federal student debt. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because we're there to support students every step of the way. They're heckling us every step of the way. We're supporting students to build Canada and make sure we have an economy that is fair for every generation.
Show us the books, buddy.
Colleagues.
Show us the books, Randy.
Member from Elmwood, Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, for years, working families in my home province of Manitoba suffered from conservative...
Is that the new NDP member?
...and social programs. Under this government, the cost of rent and food has shot up. That is why the NDP has fought to deliver dental care and pharmacare and help lower costs for Canadians. Anti-scab legislation to empower workers for better wages. While the NDP fight for measures to help people, I ask why the government refuses to crack down on corporate greed and ripping off the hard-working members of Elmwood Transcona.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I welcome my honourable colleague to this House. I look forward to their contribution. And, you know, we may disagree on how we get to solutions, but it's really wonderful to work with parties that are focused on solutions. We have parties that are really interested in finding common ground and doing things like dental care, which has seen 800,000 people get care, finding solutions like affordable medicine. And then we have a party obsessed with slogans with nothing behind them, who won't even admit they have no plan whatsoever for a senior who needs dental care or a person who needs essential medicine. Really, their message is, you're on your own, but we got a fun slogan.
The honourable member from Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this year in my community, we've already lost 64 people to poison drugs. The federal government has a $359 million program to support prevention, harm reduction, and treatment initiatives called SUAP. This government has previously funded programs in Waterloo Region, but this year, while multiple organizations submitted applications, 0 SUAP dollars have been committed to any programming in my community to date. Will the minister commit to reviewing SUAP funding decisions to ensure hotspots like Waterloo Region are not left unfunded?
He's had all of question period
The Honourable
to think of how he's going to ask the question, and that's what he does.
Addictions and mental.
And Elizabeth May jumps up like a proud grandma.
The member is a strong advocate for his community. I know also that he has recently exchanged with our department and that another meeting has been scheduled to discuss this further. We know that all communities, communities across Canada are impacted by substance use, including in the Kitchener-Waterloo region, and that's why we have invested in 400 projects, more than 400 projects through the SUAP program, making a real difference in the Canadians' life.
Who the hell is this? Looks like she got caught smiling in the wind for too long.
Of question period. I see that the honourable member, the honourable parliamentary secretary to the government house leader is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the things we want to be able to acknowledge.
All right, folks, before we get into the point of order here, I do want to encourage everyone who hasn't yet already to smash the like button. We're almost at 2,000 likes. And subscribe, right? It does help grow the channel. We are pretty close to 116,000 subscribers. If all those who are not subscribed right now, watching right now, hit that subscribe button, then we'll blow past it. And then as well as a link in the description of the live stream, I believe, as well as the pinned comment of the live chat, you'll find a link that will bring you to this new sticker pack right here. You've got Only Scams, the Liberals. You've got Freeland on a Broom, Trudeau Must Go, Keep Calm, Never Vote Liberal, and Stop the WEF. Now, it's important to note that channel members, there is on the community post of this channel, there's a code, a specific code that only channel members can see for 15% off. So if you join as a channel member, or if you just don't want to join as a channel member but still want to purchase the sticker pack, it's there, it's available. And there's on this stream there have been a tremendous amount of sales, and we might sell out, right? The Only Scams one is extremely popular right now. So now let's get into the point of order here, folks.
Knowledge, as you have said on numerous occasions, is the importance of words. Along with the importance of words is a demonstration of consistency, and I bring it up in the most positive way I can. If you take a look, for example, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Conservative Party used words like wacko and unhinged, and was not.
Hell yeah, he did.
Was not told that was not appropriate, Mr. Speaker.
You are wacko, buddy.
The word erratic, unhinged was used, and you had stood up in your place, Mr. Speaker. So all we're making the suggestion is that words do matter, and we want to follow and abide by the type of things that the Speaker is saying.
I thank the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. And as the Honourable, before I get to the Honourable Member rising.
Bye, Mark. Bye, Mark.
I had mentioned the formulation of the words were correct. I was pointing out to members, as I pointed out yesterday to members, that we were skating close to the line, and I was asking members to take great care in how they express themselves. As to the first example that the Honourable Member had used, that comment was clearly considered unparliamentary, and we had dealt with it at the time. The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This has to do with unparliamentary language, and I have to admit I appreciate your help, because I imagine when I open my mouth it may be hard to continue. The official leader of the official opposition used the word dirtbag. Now, he used it in relation to someone accused of a crime who was out on bail. I think we all need to watch our language carefully and think if
May, shut up. You're protecting criminals. Shut up, May.
was accused of homicide in the death of a police officer, only to find after examination that the man was accused wrongfully. Being out on bail does not mean someone has done something wrong. It means a judge has assessed that those conditions allow them to...
That's a dirtbag response.
Speaker.
That's a dirtbag response. Are you kidding me?
If members do not appreciate allowing the chair...
And this is the problem with our hug-a-thug policy.
Invite them, please, at their turn, to rise on a point of order. Otherwise, I'd invite them, please, to allow the chair to listen uninterrupted.
Yeah, let's get some hug-a-thugs going in chat.
From silence, Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, I so appreciate your assistance. I know this is a difficult topic. Everyone here is grateful to the police officers across this country, grateful and vastly relieved that the police officer in Toronto is recovering well and is reported to be in good spirits. No one would wish a police officer to come to harm. But those involved in altercations with the police, especially when they're still under investigation by the Special Investigations Unit, we should not in this place jump to conclusions, as the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition has done, and attribute a term like dirtbag to someone when we know nothing about their life, we know nothing about their circumstances, we know something has occurred which is most unfortunate, but we mustn't treat people who are out on bail as though they're subhuman, or we demean our own humanity.
What the hell is wrong with you, May? This is why you have two seats.
The Minister for Indigenous Relations is rising on the same point of order.
I am on the same point of order.
If I could ask the Honourable Minister...
Okay, I need to pause it again. This is the freaking exact problem that is going on with our government. Words matter. Let's protect and give more rights to criminals. And let's be really, really gentle with our words. Out on bail, cop killer, shot a cop. Are you freaking kidding me? You shot a cop, you're a dirtbag. Are you freaking kidding me? What the hell's the matter with you, May? Go back to hugging trees. Like, for crying out loud, man. What the hell is wrong with these people?
The chair has heard at length some good conversations about this, and it's going to come back to it. So I'm just going to ask the Honourable Member to be brief and to the point.
I will be brief, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I've noticed over the last several months a real decline in the tenor of this House. It is disturbing to me as a Member of Parliament to hear other members of Parliament use names and slurs towards constituents of all of ours. These are Canadians that we're talking about, and Mr. Speaker, when we're using names and calling each other names and calling constituents names, I think we can do better, Mr. Speaker. I'm a Member of Parliament for Thunder Bay Superior North, and I'm immensely proud of the citizens in my riding, and I would never, ever consider calling any of them a name.
And that's why you're probably, allegedly, hypothetically, one of the 11.
I see that the Honourable Member from Calgary Nose Hill is rising on the same point of order.
I think there's many of us here.
May I just ask, is it on the same point of order?
Yes, brief.
Great. If I could ask the Honourable Member, because the Chair has heard a fair bit of comment, and I know that members have important work to continue, so I'll ask the Honourable Member, just like I asked the Honourable Minister, to be brief and to the point.
I'd just like to put on the record that I am very comfortable calling a cop killer a dirtbag. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, look at Brock standing up. W's in the chat. You're a cop killer, you're a dirtbag.
Colleagues, thank you for your input, and I do appreciate what you have raised. The Chair, on a number of occasions, and not only this Chair, but previous chairs, people who held this position have raised the point of importance of us using language which is befitting of this place and the people who sent us here. Je vous encourage toujours.
I would always encourage you to display a certain discretion about when speaking about people who aren't here to defend themselves. This said, as I announced last week, when these people are public persons, then they can deal with political matters here in this House.
Us to use a language, again, that is befitting of the people who sent us here, and I encourage all members to do so. As
it is Thursday, it is time for the weekly question, the Thursday question, and I recognize the Leader of the Official Opposition.
The Government House Leader's attention to the following passage from page 95 of Eugene Forsy's The Question of Confidence in Responsible Government, considered to be the Canadian Bible on the Confidence Convention. Quote, "A ministry which could not control the House sufficiently to carry, supply, and essential business would have to be dismissed if it did not resign or seek a new House by dissolution. This morning, after reading the projected orders of business published by the House, I noticed that the House Leader had not bothered to schedule any government business. Since last week, she has been struggling to propose her Ways and Means motion regarding the small business and middle class tax hikes with the capital gains tax changes, a signature piece of her government's financial agenda. Has she abandoned that initiative? Has she abandoned that tax hike? And has the minister conceded that she's effectively lost control of the House? As a consequence, if the government is preferring to have Parliament ground to a halt rather than hand over the documents that a House lawfully ordered to be produced and transmitted to the RCMP, they'd rather keep the House seized with this corruption motion rather than simply comply with the production order and live up to basic expectations of transparency.
Yeah.
If she's going to refuse to comply with that House order, if she's unable to bring forward any other business of the House, will she, at the very least, encourage the Prime Minister to dissolve the House so that Canadians can have their say in a carbon tax election?
Holy crap. W's for Andrew Scheer.
Thank the honourable member for
down in the comments.
Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
He's not messing around, man. Andrew Scheer is not messing around. He's got that lawyer background, right? He's very litigious. He knows what he's doing. And right now we're in the final stages. We're in the final stretch before an election happens, and Liberals are getting pinched from every corner. You got the Bloc is turned on them, or they're about to turn on them. You got the coalition is over with the NDP. You got everybody is after the Liberals, and they are at an all-time low. You could very well see the Liberals go from a government, like a Liberal government, down to having 50 or 60 seats, maybe even less. Like, it's insane what's going on. Wow.
Mr. Speaker, well, that was cute, and I can see that the Leader of the Conservatives was having a hard time not laughing at how ridiculous his own statement was. But what I will say is that nous entamons bientôt la quatrième.
We will soon be beginning the fourth week of our session. We will be dealing with the passage of C. 76, which has to do with the City of Jasper and construction. We will also be debating an important bill, a bill important for all Canadians, Bill C-71, with the question of a dissent, and which protects the value of Canadian citizenship, and which would protect Canadians dispossessed of their citizenship, and those for whom previous legislation should apply. Also, C-66, which recognizes that the Canadian forces, which has to do with Canadian forces, and the necessity of preventing harassment in the Canadian forces. This historic piece of legislation would transform military justice in Canada and would comply with recommendations made by Supreme Court justices. And C-63, having to do with online prejudice, which harms children and would better protect all Canadians against online hate and harm.
Parliament who have been working constructively in advancing these bills. The Conservatives, on the other hand, continue to do everything that they can to block the important work of the House and prevent debate on legislation that will help Canadians. They have offered nothing constructive and instead have focused on cheap political stunts and obstruction for the sake of obstruction. They've lost 2 confidence votes already and continue to paralyze the business of the House. The government supports debates on the privilege motions, concluding quickly so that we can get back to the important work of this House. And I extend my hand to any party that wants to work constructively to advance legislation that will help Canadians.
Wow.
Once debate has concluded on both privilege motions, our priorities will be resuming debate on the bills I have listed before. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the honourable member from Regina.
Andrew Scheer again.
The government House Leader was trying to impugn motive on my Thursday statement. I believe it would be fair for me to point out that there is nothing cute about Liberal insiders funneling $400 million to their own companies.
Yeah. Amen.
That is.
How disingenuous do you have to be to say that's cute?
Doesn't work out for the question and for the answer, for the weekly question and answer.
Yeah, all the Conservatives left.
I wish to inform the House that the volume of the earpieces will now be reset.
I wish to advise the House that earpieces will now be reset.
All right, folks. Totes my goats, that's it. What a hell of a freaking stream today, man. Holy smokes. That was insane. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna read off some of the super chats right now while we all stare together at the sticker pack, which is available. Link down below in the description and the pinned comment of the stream. Once I find where I left off here, Piston with a $6.99. Thank you for that. Saying bring on Pierre with a healthy side of more Brock. I think that's something that we all want, man. I think we definitely want some more Brock in there. Tracy with the membership. I appreciate that. Angela with the 2. Hug a thug. Hug a thug. No doubt. No doubt. Karen, thank you for joining the membership. I am Sully with a 5. Been watching you since 2021. Appreciate ya. Thanks, Sully. Appreciate that. It's back to the van life days. Ryan Moore with the 2. 338 Canada has Pierre winning as many as 246 seats. I know, and that's just right now. The longer it goes on, the more seats Pierre will likely consume. Jordan English with the 2. Liberals cannot say hold the line. I agree. Yeah, keep that word out your mouth. Right, Misty Johnson with the 5. Where is Justin? Is he hiding again? Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's why I got the. That's why I've got this right here. Right, the milk carton one. Right. Have you seen me? Trudeau's missing. Right, he's on a milk carton. I believe he's heading to France, or he's in France or something like that. Lise Boucher with a 4. Sticker with a coffee. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can fill up my cup. The poor man's poet with the 10. American. He does look like Harry Pot smoker. Yeah, that's why I got that zinger. Hey, not too bad. Jordan English with a 5. While I get where May is coming from, the people that are being talked about in the House are not innocent people out on bail, and that's exactly right. Look, I understand as a federal MP to just throw mud at us Canadian citizens is not appropriate. You can't just start calling people that, like regular people names, right? We've seen what that looks like with Cat Canada, where Mark Gerritsen called her a bunch of different names, accused her of having ties to Russia and all that stuff. And then they slapped him with either a cease and desist or a warning or a lawsuit or something along the lines. And he publicly apologized, because you can't do that. You can't use your position as a federal MP to throw mud at certain individuals. But being a cop killer, dude, come on. Like, come on, man. At what point do you say, at what point do you say they've lost some rights, right? They've lost some rights. We don't care about that anymore. And cop killer, I think that would be, lobbed into that category of, yeah, you're a dirtbag. Absolutely. Most people would agree. Hug a thug policies, right? Matthew the 5, Liberal House Leader demanding tone is not appropriate or appreciated. Yeah. There's a lot of people barking in the House, especially today. Piston with a $6.99. I ordered the hot and sticker pack 2. Brother ordered the hot and sticker pack 2. Brother, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ordered and got a sticker pack. Ordered the hot and sticker pack. This one is the Trudeau scams on screen here. The only scam: Trudeau must go. Keep calm, never vote Liberal. Freeland on a broom and stop the WEF. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. IK, Okay, with the 279. Happy birthday, Mom. All right, there you go. Happy birthday, Mom. Right on. There you go, folks. So it looks like we're all caught up on members and super chats. Now's a good time to, I guess, end the stream. Thanks to everybody who supported the stream by liking. We're well over 2,000 likes. A lot of new subscribers today. A lot of people really scooped up those sticker packs. So thanks everybody. Thanks everybody to just comment. You know, that's the best. Also the best way, free way to support the channel. Commenting, liking, subscribing, engaging with the community. Chat went absolutely nuts here. I think we peaked at probably like 30,000 or 20,000 chats. Yeah, 20,000 chats. 20,000 chats on a 2-hour live stream. That is wild, folks. That is wild. So shout out to all of you for, you know, being in here, dropping some W's, you know, putting down, hug a thug, all that stuff. You guys are amazing. I love you. Thank you very much. Tomorrow's Friday. I don't normally stream on Fridays, so I doubt that I will make an exception for tomorrow. And then if we pull up the sitting calendar, what month are we here? We're October 3rd, 4th. Yeah, so they're going to resume back on Monday. So I guess I'll see you guys all back on Monday here. Stay tuned, though, to the channel for upcoming videos and on MSB. Lots of developments, lots of stuff happening. And next week, who knows? We could have another vote of non-confidence. Yeah, 20,000 in 2 hours of chats. You know what? Let's end on some W's. Let's bump that number up, huh? Put some W's in the chat. Put some hug-a-thugs in the chat. Whatever it is that you want. Thank you, everybody. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your day. I guess I won't see you guys on a live stream until Monday. So enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Thanks for the support. And we're going to get some stickers out on the go because the orders are really piling in. Overwhelming, actually. So peace and love. And bye for now, folks. Holy crap, there's the W's. That was a bad idea. Okay. Can I end the stream? It's overflowing the system. All right. Bye, everybody.